Testing. Check that earlier. Should be. So yeah, I think we're good. And yep. No, I could push the screen back a bit. This used to be called Lindsay Entertainment since the summer of 2016. So 5 years it was called that after being Lindsay 18 for 2 years because that was more, back then it was more Lego-centric. Lindsay Entertainment was about expanding beyond the concept of just the Lego games, trying other stuff. So a lot more theme park base, and then initially, in 2017, I got back into Powder, so I decided to try and work with that. Being a film major, I really wanted to start focusing more on discussing TV and film as I have in my classes. So, I also really still enjoy doing the theme park stuff, and I felt I needed a better name for that in present. So finally, back in the spring, I started History and Leisure Instagram about covering all my travels and theme parks, Renaissance fairs, museums, and other adventures, big and small. So what did I? Didn't only did not name anymore, and my major called TV film, but since really don't really deal with that. It's called TV film or the media industries, but Lindsay TV film because my last initials actually starts with a T, so it would make kind of play on that. And again, it's more general, saying it's more general about all the media industries, like TV film discussion. You could include video games and shows and parks as media. Media is a very term. And I have some cool stuff still from here from my college, like a bonus reel and G-Force and Me Too story are still over here along with other projects. The one was posted to the university's channel, so that's saved in the project's playlist. There's a few that you can't see that are privatized because mostly they're those are 2 silent films that I did in a kind of short and not really would be much of interest, but I did save the film, which is silent, it's black and white, but I do feel it was something cool. Important to keep up. The first 2, not so much. Further ado, more discussion. So over here with the channel, the idea is that I'll be doing live streams monthly, except for right now, the first 2, they'll be back to back. So if this one going on right now, August 31st, 2021, 3:35 p.m. in Glassboro, New Jersey. Originally I do it rode back home, but with the timing between getting back home from Cedar Point to moving back here, I put all my focus into editing the vlogs and catching up on Toku. There'll be no Toku discussion here today. I was really thinking of talking about the Rider movies, but next week we'll be wrapping up Saber and Zenkai Jump Sphere Senki. The Dino Fury episodes that dropped, and the 01 movies. So I decided to only stop at episode 19 is because, I fell behind. Shortly after the Dino Fury episodes dropped, I couldn't even watch Dino Fury because I couldn't quite get to Netflix. It was weird with that stuff. But I took that as a sign to watch Korra. So it's 20 since that's about halfway. So probably more halfway for a Ranger series, not two, because that could be 48, 50. Not sure. We don't know how long Zenkai will be. Probably 48. I don't know. Who knows on that. As I stop there, and then in October, for the October episode, we'll catch up on Zenkaiger, get the movie special, hopefully, and 3 Sentai movies that came out, that premiered back in like February, I believe, which is Kiyomager summer movie, the Right Soldier special, and Kiyomager vs. Right Soldier. I know all 3 of those have subs out, so just gonna wait on those till October. But next week, Labor Day, this one was always planned as being an episode on that day. So episode 2 is going to be just Prince Spirit Time 2021 focus. We have the 0-1 movies in there. 0-1 Real Time and Metsubo Jinare Part 2. I think only just came out in theaters with Fua and Valkyrie. Her name escaped me at the moment, but I don't think we'll see that sub till next year. But we're not talking Toku today. Today, the close that we're talking Toku about is Legend of Korra. But while I was watching Legend of Korra, I got around to watching Raya and Luca, some other stuff on the side as well. I didn't get watching else on Paramount Plus because that's how I watched Korra. But yeah, I watched Raya. I never watched the original iCarly series, so for me to watch iCarly, the original and or the reboot, drop that in the comments, or the drop in the comments of the video or the stream. So yeah, starting off with Raya. Actually watched this in the middle with I was still through book 2. It took when I was 3 days off at the end of July. I was going to go to Michigan's Adventure, but that trip got canceled, and then everybody else was locked down. My roommates due to COVID. One was moved to a different location. One then left and spent some time with family, and then he came back for 2 or 3 days. No, it was only 1 day, and then he came back at the end of within the quarantine period for him, and then the other would just stay put, basically. And then they didn't care since I was fully vaccinated. But I did start I did start wearing my mask in the dining hall there because that was one of the strictest places for quite a while in terms of wearing a mask. But anyways, the beginning, it kind of reminded me of Anna and Elsa, where basically, Frozen, Anna started playing, and then Anna gets hurt because Elsa's trying to stop her from, trying to save her from, falling. But I kind of felt the same way here with Raya and Nymeria. But also, you could also view it as sort of like Avatar, where Numari and Zuko start off as enemies, and then they become allies in the end. And that's kind of why I was thinking if you like Avatar and Korra, you're going to like Raya. There's all the reasons on your list that we go on, but. Actually, specifically, they switch sides to the hero side to foil the plans of their parents, and it's the parents of sex. You have Ozai, and then the queen. I forget her name. I don't think I wrote the name down, but Spine also especially I suppose as Spine reminded me of kind of the Northlands in Frozen 2, or else goes at the end, as well as kind of the aesthetic of the Snuggly Duckling character from Tangled. I hopefully when I watched some 2000 or 2010s princess films again. It's been a while. This was only released 10 years after Tangled, man, it might have some of the same crew on it, or it's complete coincidence. Talent reminds me of one of the areas in Ninjago. It was in a possession. I think it was some earlier seasons as well, but I can remember the preeminent in possession season crashing into like that area at the end. I think that's season 6. Yeah. Also, Tale kind of gave me the eyes of the Western world and the Lego movie, and probably a lot of other Western. It's probably just like more like a general like Western aesthetic. That was what came to mind to me first, and not like Stagecoach, which I watched. I remember other like Westerns, Lone Ranger. That's a modern one. Trying to other like, classics that I've seen. Like I've seen parts of some other classics. I'll tell you that. In Book of Spirits specifically, because I was watching at the time, as I said. No, I have a lot of phlegm in my throat, and no idea why. It's been like that since I got back. It might be because I don't have a headboard. It kind of did back in the dorm. That's either point. But now, my bed, if I bring it back down, right there. There, that's too high for me. I have to jump up onto the bed still. And I'm tall. 5'11", maybe 6 foot. I kind of want to drop it down at least. So the mattress part is at this level here, which is I don't really need to jump on the bed to go to bed, but still still high, but I'll take it. And I think actually good. Like it has a bit more of a support for the pillows, but that might only be because I had back at dorms, which should be enough. Fix that, but so I really want to, like I said, the fan casting. That's probably going to be for the mini doll scale. It's really cool. It kind of reminds me of like a structure, of Asian temples, more like Japanese and Chinese than more of the more of when I think of that versus Thailand and the tropical Asia, which is kind of what we're getting at here, like a Indo-Pacific theme going on here. Although it's a fictional world called Kumandra. And I think it's like, as a film itself, it's an aesthetically beautiful film, heartfelt, even though it hits a lot of the same beats as Frozen, Tangled, Avatar, Korra. That's bound to happen. This is a hero's journey story, unlike traditional princess story. The allies from the market town in Talon, kind of these kids 12, I guess. He's kind of hitting on her a bit, and she kind of trying to sit down. The queen of Talon, she, they all turn to stone, which is kind of like how Anna is frozen by the curse that, by the frozen heart curse thing. That's one of my favorite parts. Frozen right there, frozen heart. So come for to let it go. And like I said, otherwise, before, in the last live stream, which was talking Disney and Toku, where I watched Frozen recently. Prior to that, for my deconstructing Disney class and save that thought. Hold a thought there. But yeah, I really want a Lego Fang Castle, so do it. Do it! Again, if you like Avatar: The Last Airbender, Legend of Korra, go and watch Raya and the Last Dragon. And moving on to Pixar's movie this came out in the summer. Both of these start off on Disney Plus exclusives in the US. So yeah, I think I didn't watch it in the market. Raya had to pay for it initially, and then it became free around when Luca came out, and Luca was free from the get-go, which I feel like having the Pixar films be free, it kind of almost symbolizes how originally back when Disney acquired Pixar, Pixar was the better company in terms of animation. And then they helped rebuild Disney animation, and they look similar, but thing on Pixar is more they're more mature aesthetic and thoughts, more mature concepts going on. In Pixar movies versus Disney movies, that's kind of why I say with Soul is that Soul is definitely more based on a mature topic and not really as can seem a little. It's in terms of overall quality of the movie. There's definitely certainly not a lot of stuff going not going from one action scene to the next, the next, the next. It definitely takes time with that. Definitely a little more slowed down, I would say, for a lot of it. But anyway, something interesting about Luca that first few minutes, the fish are sheep, so it kind of was above world, underworld. We kind of talked about that with the Little Mermaid and maybe Splash to an extent in the past few streams back when I was taking the Deconstructing Disney course. Now Alberto, he was stuck on abandoned guard tower alone until he met Luca. His dad's been MIA for a while, but the dad was finally going out, having Alberto go on his own adventures and stuff. Luca is initially hesitant to be up on the surface. He becomes eager to learn, which you need that kind of showing symbol of growth going from boy to man, and eventually leaving with Julia and going back to the big city to study, go to astronomy and that stuff. So going from the depths of the sea to wanting to explore the stars. That's kind of an interesting story. I never thought we would expect from Luca. More it's in the summertime. I think it's 50s or something, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. And the boys, getting their Vespa and traveling, but Alberto decides to stay and help Julia's dad go to the fishing town. And initially, they're against mermaids and sea monsters and stuff. But you know what? Once revealed that Luke and Alberto are sea monsters, there's actually another elderly, totally friends. Let's say they're elderly friends, and they're revealed to also be sea monsters hiding in the town. Kind of interesting there, you don't know. It's kind of you don't know what people are hiding under the surface. That's kind of a little subtle thing there. It's also a big thing is that Julia's dad was born without a right arm, so that's considered a good example of inclusion of disabilities, versus queer baiting in other films and products of Disney of late. So, and also, Julia's parents are divorced as her mom lives in a big city where Julia goes to school. Actually, I feel that Juliet and their Luca go to school in Geneva, to Switzerland. So we're a little bit like it's basically surrounded by everything except Switzerland, except like a tiny little section for the road connected to the rest of the country. So kind of like Geneva's metro is kind of like the little part that is like Geneva sits between France and I think it's France, Germany, and Italy. There might be a Germany in there. I'm not sure right now. I could check maps, but I'm not. That's not what this type of stream is for. This is like TV film. We could do that over on my other channel, History and Leisure. That's all like theme parks. You got to mention theme parks, Renaissance fairs, museums, and other travel-related stuff. Like when I go to Spain next year, that series is going to be over on History and Leisure. Comparing stars, the fish, and the gramophone, seeing the inner box also reminds me of in Legend of Korra, we returned to Wan Shi-tong's library, which I did not expect, and the misinformation that Wan Shi-tong gets about the radio, because he thinks it's guys singing in box, where it's either I think it was Janora that explains to him that it's not someone in a box. It's someone somewhere else where his voice is transferred to that box. Like the guy's not in the box, the guy's somewhere else, and the signal ends up getting to the box. That's it's the Luke kind of like, so there is a bit more of that laid backness to it, but there's definitely a lot of intensity, but it's more like your general, kind of age story, middle school, high school with like the bully character. And the bully guy thought was going to be some random character just, for that one scene, but he does become more important. And like, some random guy, but no, that guy is the actor, kind of like the physical antagonist of the film. Other than you could say, prejudice or segregation of, or overprotective parents. Or there's more ideas being antagonists. But it's like something that is faced within the world. Yeah, that dude is a little old for the big event for the kids over the summer, which is a triathlon of swimming, fundamental training, up to a pasta eating competition. The pasta changes every year. There's local, pasta making place, and and then the bike up the top of the hill and back down to the square. And after that day, it started to rain, and that's kind of how things go. It's interesting that both of these connected back into Korra, Avatar as a whole, They don't expect that, even though I was watching at the time, so, I can make those connections. I kind of was with the 1920s aesthetic, I really enjoyed Great Gatsby, more so the book than the film, but I definitely feel the Leonardo film, that's pretty good. Also, one of my roommates was into sports, and the other was anime, and then the fourth, who wasn't around when I started, is a gamer. It's kind of like on hiatus because he's working at Cedar Point, but so I was right now, they went there's different energy to the show than after, I think it's because it's more each season like 4 distinct arcs in Korra's life, going from becoming an airbender to, reconnecting with the spirits, the effects of that, and an old threat of that's pretty much been around her whole life, and that's why was sealed away from the rest of the world. And then basically 3 years of recovering from those events. And basically dealing with problems that have come up since in her absence. There's like some questions about Lindsay, and I said, hope they're solved. Not quite sure all of them were, but yeah, it felt like first one was like bam, 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 bam with. But I think it kind of makes sense as the pro bending is like a fast sport, so I guess there's some sense in there. Like Sami and Zuko might be my 2 favorite characters, like aesthetically in either grouping. So Sami is really descended from firebenders. The colonists that came over in even as probably even as far back as during Roku's life. So she probably has 4th or 5th generation Fire Nation in her. Most possibly, but it could even be as recent as the day that Aang returned when that iceberg broke. Who knows? But that's still 3rd generation. 100 years, at least 5th, from 3rd, 5th, could be further back, because there was a 100-year gap where Aang was in that iceberg. And then Iroh Jr. is the same view as Zuko, which was interesting. Like if you really like a guy, you bring him back, especially for a franchise like Power Rangers, you bring him back as much as you can. That's why you have I think Power Rangers today would be the same without Kelson and Campbell Cooley. And got Kelson in came back as Mick in Dino Fury. I'm not sure if he's done anything else yet for Dino Fury, but I think he did a cameo role. That was not his voice. That was him not voicing Cruz in last year in Beast Wars for season 2. And then Campbell Cooley is Slither this season, who was kind of like a fan favorite for my soldier wizard. So, and I think he could he's only played a lot of sinister, cocky. He's played a lot of villains with different personalities. And then I actually thought Sonny clarified, but no, he's just imprisoned, and he comes back later on toward the end of the series to help him out. But landmines, planes, mecha, not mecha, battle mechs. It reminds me of the the small set of the Power Miners line. That was 2010, I believe. And then definitely watch Disney Brain series on Korra. It was Tarlock, who was one of the governors. Looks like a governor, but the main setting of the first season, they originally had a council with representatives from each of the 5 nations. Obviously, since it's kind of interesting that the Tenzin is on the board, even though he's technically, the airbenders at that time are still only just him and his 2 daughters and son. So he doesn't really feel much to have him be there or be on there, other than because he often gets voted against throughout the season. So feels like, why keep Tenzin on the board? I think even Tenzin might have been on the board at Noah Talk's trial, or no, Noah Talk and Talk's father's trial. I think, or it might have been Aang. And I think Aang was watching, and then Tenzin was on the board or something in the flashback. I might be wrong about that. Someone can clarify it for me in the comments. But I believe that's how it was. Oh, I wrote the dad was Econ. I remember that, so that's good. And Aang took his bending, and then Econ was able to teach his sons the same way he knew how to blood bend, and this led Notok, who became a Mon, to use blood bending to steal bending from other people, including a lot of the gangs that Mako and Bolin dealt with before they got into pro bending. And obviously in Avatar, we only know that blood bending done at full moon. We've even seen in the flashback they were doing blood bending on yak type creatures in broad daylight. And saying that, there's like a theory that Yue was supposed to be Aang's original successor, but since he was, frozen for 100 years, and she had like very little life force, so she had a little bit of the moon spirit in her, keep her alive. And then she eventually sacrificed herself in order for the moon to come back. And that's how we get the joke from Sokka that my girlfriend became the moon. Well, Korra's father, Tarnrock, is from the north. And then he married in the south. So that technically makes Korra a princess. Just like Yue. And then, Tarnrock's like, especially since he was helping out the bad guys to show up in season 3, although he wasn't there when they had the specific attack in question that that quartet was arrested for. But technically part of a group that technically is considered still at large, which is the Red List, the White List, the Secret Society, a lot of the elders in the original series were a part of, but they're like they're out there as little guards, and they're protecting, Tenzin's family as well as Korra from, mostly, any evil, but I guess mostly the Red Lotus at this point in time. By this point, after Aang's death, you would say. But always wanted his brother out of his way. I think it's even because Tarnak was the older brother and just wanted power. And basically, this relationship escalates in Book of Spirits to civil war. And so now with the president in charge of the former Fire Nation colonies, that obviously brings friction. So we use our new guy named Varric, interesting movers like the newsreels. Like at the beginning, they would have these beginnings of movies. Like especially in the Great Depression, you would go to the movie theater for like an afternoon of fun. You get 2 movies, news, and then your shorts. Mickey Mouse, Betty Boop, Looney Tunes, that kind of stuff. Initially, Boomy has to be one of my favorite, of the family. He's he might be old, but he's still having a good time. And spirits they are cute, and then they did one in this time, it's slightly different art style. bit more almost like like the old Asian paintings. I think more like Japanese style. I think the Japanese style is more sticking in my head. But yeah, so basically clarifies that the Line Turtles were the keepers of bending power, but then each learned to master that power differently once it was left with the people. In a nutshell. And what went on to my motivations was that for bringing spirits back was if we unlock spirit pearls that once long ago we can easily connect the north and the southern kingdoms. So trade is a lot easier, which fair. That's kind of similar to Sozin, where he wanted to spread prosperity, and that kind of led to 100-year war. But there's a dark spirit, obviously, that we've Batu, and then Ulak and Batu combined, just like one combined with Robert the Light Spirit back in the day. And since, Batu's gone for now at the end of the season, Batu's prison is now once again open. Korra uses that sometimes, and she's able to use it once right after she defeated Batu, so our memories and stuff. But like in book 4, she goes there and really can't do anything because season 3, she's metal bending, Bolin learns she can lava bend, and because she can metal bend, it's later learned that the poison that season 3 do in attempt to destroy her, she's somehow able to be able to prove that maybe she's stronger than she thinks, and so this allows her to become. I would say she's definitely not a realized avatar until she does that, because she might have power, but she has the power, she has kind of the will, but I do feel it's only at that point that she does have it, and so that's why. And then they continue being together, disbanding Team Avatar is kind of it hurts that towards the goal, but if everybody is more try and help her and make her stay on the track to better health, then instead of going those certain ways, then maybe things would be different. Just think scrambling. And very so rich, he ended up building his own prison just in case. But then he ends up getting free, hiding out with the metal benders, eventually supporting the Earth Empire. But doesn't like their plans. He kind of retaliates with Bolin because Julie, his assistant, ends up siding with Kuvira, because she is adopted by one of Toph's daughters, and the other one being more active early on, fighting the police in the Republic, like her mom. It's not surprising me is that Beric and Julie end up marrying once they're reunited. We learn of Julie's original intentions, so yeah, kind of really was kind of being on the bush with season 3, So I hear the main bad guy it's different, with all his long hair from this time when he's in prison versus when he's bald, and you can always kind of worship this guru of guru. So when he became gained airbending powers after the convergence at the end of season 2, he actually ends up, believing so much, especially when his girlfriend dies. He kind of he loses attachment, and that allows him to fly just like this famous guru was said to for the remaining 40 years of his life. They look completely fun. They look like two completely different characters. I can kind of see it in the eyes a bit, but you could make them two completely different characters, and I don't think anyone would care. Unrelated, completely unrelated. And the thing is that Lynn, the cop sister, Sue, and then Sue is because they're separated because Sue kind of got in trouble, and along with Zyka, there are others that's joined the Air Nation of Tenzin. You have Kai, who becomes Janora's boyfriend. Opal, who was living with Sue, who was one of Sue's daughters. And becomes lovers of Bolin. And a lot of prisoners of Ba Sing Se. He's kind of saying that Ba Sing Se doesn't really change until hopefully maybe the new Prince Wu guy changes something. Because I think, I don't know, it's kind of always might need more read supplement material, but I don't think it's a king per se. It might be a constitutional monarchy like the UK or something, where he's still powerless, thing else, but it's not a military type thing. There is the advisors control everything, and he just puts his signature on it, and he gets to do a bit more than maybe his ancestors did than just be figurehead in sign stuff in law, but. The spirit vines, it's another thing that came out of conversion, that part of the United Nations, the ex-colonies is now a forest home to spirits, and they think the spirit vines are powerful, not find new power in that, but basically the spirits don't want to deal with it because if humans are humans are weaponizing spirits, then why should spirits help Korra in a fight to destroy it? They're basically doing the same thing. In their eyes, they're basically doing the same thing, which is not what the Avatar is supposed to do. Also, in the end, we got a new spirit portal in Republic City. And I guess, people think of the series good because it's representation. No, it's only 5 scenes at the very end of it. But you can definitely tell that Asami and Korra grow close over the course of the later series. There's this one season thing. Asami's going to join join Iroh Jr. as being a part of United Forces. But we have some nice font, Iroh Senior font. Who doesn't stand Iroh? Who doesn't stand Iroh? Okay? Kind of like Zuko more because he has an arc. But it's interesting that Iroh has 2 voice acting. Iroh, kind of interacts with kind of all the generations, you could say. Even looking at there's one time when one of the first times Korra goes into the spirit world, that she kind of shrinks into a child, and Iroh takes care of her, and he goes his tea party, kind of not Mad Hatter closing, I think it was like Mad Hatter's Tea Party. So I feel like, again, I'm not saying it's good, it's not bad, but representation does not make it good. I definitely feel that I actually think season 2 is one of the best seasons, not because it's the longest season, but I do feel that other than season 4, other than like season 1, she's doing airbending, and that's kind of similar to the arcs of the original Avatar series, where I don't know what that alarm is, but I mean, fire something, but it's kind of like going through the same motions that Aang did to master his powers, and Korra's only got her powers until the very end when all her other power is drained, and then the past avatars give her back the other powers, which is kind of thing, but really one of the only times that she ever interacts with her past selves, because Unlock basically destroys Rava, so basically cuts off her connection to the past avatars, which kind of makes her vulnerable. They kind of feel vulnerable. I think that's kind of why I feel she's not really fully realized until she makes her comeback in season 4, because she's suffered so much trauma, both in the short term, in the last year, and the last year, because it's season 2 goes straight into season 3, and there's a 3-year gap between the end of season 3 and season 4, so you have a lot of trauma, and so that whole arc. So that whole arc's kind of important, in that regard. Making a full constantly kept bringing up in that way, but and I was thinking about the Kuvio's Rava, where she attached the super weapon to, it doesn't have any, she uses her bending, the metal bending, to control the robot, even though just other guards, in other ports. Kind of remind me of how the Jungle Fury or Geki Rangers control their Megazord, where they don't have even Mystic Force in the way. I haven't watched that series, but where you don't push buttons or lift levers or steer a wheel. They kind of just go with the motion. It's they actually kick when they kick, which I think they kind of brought back with the the armor system thing, with the Samurai, Dino Charge, Ninja Steel, and now Dino Fury, Mega Force, and Beast Morphers being the exceptions, where I believe with Mega Force they just reused the cockpit footage from Ghost Agent and Gokaiger, where for Beast Morphers I think they did all new footage. It looks pretty much the same. Orderly is minimum, changing it up, so they push the buttons that make sense for the US terminology and not Sentai terms, but yeah, it was a nice fun ride, and got through a lot of season 2 and season 3, and Luca and Raya toward late July. So I think I think that's why I binged through half of season 2 and 2/3 and most of season 3 in 2 days. So we go back to July. So 26th, the judgments is normal day off, so I kind of treat it as such, and then 20th and 29th were catch up. I think one of those was, they finished season 2 and started season 3, plus Ryan and Luca on the 28th, and then 29th I got through season 3 and started season 4. I think that's what happened, and there was another week, 10 days before I ended up actually finishing the series, just because how things were cut up and all. because I had like 9 episodes, I believe, left after the 29th, and I was being, we were explaining it to smaller segments, or kind of went fidget straight through. So yeah, I definitely can see why Korra has its flaws and kind of slows down, like kind of just seems like kind of just like fills an important gap, like why Korra was in prison, kind of like Korra was kind of in her own little prison for training for the first episode. She was kind of, I think the correct word, in tune. I would say she was like in tune with from the beginning. I'll say that. So it's not that her dad was overprotective like it seemed in season 2. She was literally in danger. And a princess. The time it's like Korra, Raya, princesses. But yeah, I'm probably losing my voice, so I keep rambling on. So yeah, that concludes the premiere episode of the Lindsay TV film podcast, or you could consider like season 2 of Talking to the Group. Put it that way. But we weren't talking like took it all today. Kind of brought up in a lot of weird ways. But next time, just to recap. So just to recap, next week, September 6th, check the timer, it'll be 4 p.m. Eastern Time, New York. That's the time for New York. If you don't know, actual city, yeah. I think we got it. Yeah, that will be mainly a focus on wrapping up writer stuff, because I watched the 01 films quite some time ago. Plus, what was on Netflix for Dino Fury and Zenkaiger through Superhero Senki. Obviously, Super Senki we got for a while, but yeah. And then October, I haven't scheduled a date yet, because that may or may not happen depending on haunt stuff. Want to go to Great Adventure, Fright Fest, join for Haunt, Spark in the Dark, Pierre Ren Fair, maybe Dutch Wonderland weekend type thing, and Linville Orchards. I've been there since I only have been there as long as I've been since I've been in the Boy Scouts, and keep kind of inspired before I got back here. So I still don't know anything with it. But yeah, a lot of ideas. Let's see if that on stuff happens, which might keep you busy enough that that'll take me through a slate, and I might not get back over here after library stream till mid-November. In which case that I might just put that probably would include some more revised thoughts, unless I decide to drop revise between its launch and the October stream that happens. I'll tell you guys why in a minute, but yeah, I think we might get more Tree of Ice teasing on Monday. But until then, comment, like, subscribe, and strike the bell.